Assassin's Creed 2 was one of the most important games Ubisoft have ever released. The first game birthed an idea that had unquestionable potential, but faltered in standing on its own as a solid video game. Step up Assassin's Creed 2 in 2009, taking everything Ubisoft learned from the release of the first game 2 years prior and moulding it into what I still believe is the best game in the entire franchise. The story was chained to its themes, the combat was slick, and the world was immersive. But how does it hold up in 2023? I recently played the game to answer that very question. And I didn't just railroad through the main story. Oh no, in my third and most recent playthrough of this game, I acquired the Platinum Trophy. Yes, I actually went and collected all 100 feathers. No, I'm not sure it was worth it. And yes, I am clinically insane. I'd always remembered Assassin's Creed 2 having a slow start, but I really didn't feel that way whilst playing it this time around. Maybe it was the nostalgia kicking in, but I was gripped. The game introduces you to Ezio and his family in such a way that you can witness their close-knit family bond in all of its glory, before it is cruelly ripped from you at the end of the first sequence, as a devastating revelation sets the events of the game in motion. It's a brilliant opening that remains as impactful today as it did 14 years ago. Games are rarely paced this well in the modern age, especially Ubisoft games. Take their most recent entry in the series, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I genuinely think that there was a decent story in there, but it was buried by an insurmountable bloat of filler that meant many players didn't even get to see the interesting avenue that the game goes in its later sections. There is a very little, if any, filler in Assassin's Creed 2. Every mission feels as though it serves a larger purpose. Ezio wants revenge on those who killed his family, and as the story picks up in pace, he seeks answers to a mystery that fully lives up to its early premise. This game is a lot shorter than I remember it being, sitting between I'd say 12 and 20 hours depending on how much side content you do, and it's a lot better for it. I never felt like I was wasting time in this game. I was always watching Ezio grow and mature until he's ready to be sworn into the Brotherhood over the many years that this game takes place within. But let's talk about Ezio himself for a minute.
The Auditori are not dead! I'm still here! Me! Ezio! Ezio Auditore!
There's a reason he's pretty much every Assassin's Creed fan's favourite protagonist. There's a reason he's the only protagonist in the series to get a trilogy, and there's a reason that said trilogy got its own remaster. And that reason is his charisma. Video game protagonists need charisma. You will be spending countless hours with this character. They need to be interesting enough to prevent fatigue. And I can tell you right now, fatigue is never an issue with Ezio.
Things yourself! Your sister seemed quite satisfied with the handling I gave her earlier.
The banter he has with his allies, his determination when going against his foes, he's literally just a fun person to be around. He's just such a cool guy with a sympathetic motivation that gets you on board and on his side. You want to seek justice alongside Ezio, because you know he deserves it. Next up, the setting. I had never realised just how stylish this game actually was. The graphics, even on the Ezio collection, are far from stellar. But this really isn't a game that needs it. The art style brings the Renaissance to life in ways only video games really can. From Florence to the mountains to Venice, I was honestly pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed looking at the game. This is by far the biggest positive to avoiding chasing the industry standard for graphics, because this game's art style is timeless. The combat is of course incredibly simple and could absolutely be pigeonholed into being dubbed as being a counter-attack merchant, as that is by far the most efficient way to play this game. Holding the right trigger and pressing square when the very easily telegraphed attacks come your way will get you through the whole game. But you don't have to do that. You do have a lot of tools in your arsenal, poison, pistols, sand, smoke bombs, it's all there if you wish to use it. The combat in this game is as good as you choose it to be. I'm not going to pretend that it's incredible, because it's just not. It's very simple, but it does its job, and that's good enough for me. The parkour is probably the part of the experience where the game does show its age the most. It was definitely nostalgic to be running around Florence and Venice again, remembering all the viewpoints and whatnot, but one thing I definitely take for granted in the newer games is that I just prefer the parkour. This may be controversial, I've honestly got no idea, but the amount of times Ezio will be halfway up a building and will then just suddenly leap off of the building for seemingly no reason. I say this, it really didn't happen all that often. It's not an omnipresent issue or anything. It's just something that happened a bit too often for my liking. Plus, there's the few times, I'm talking 5 maximum maybe, where I'm leaping into a hay bale, on one occasion directly from a viewpoint, and it just wouldn't lock onto the hay bale. I just splatted 5 feet next to it. The punishment for this is very minimal, as you just spawn on the ground again, but that doesn't stop it being a little bit irritating. But if I were to play devil's advocate, I'd say if anything, it does add to the charm. Another thing I've taken for granted in the newer entries is the ability to climb on anything. There are quite a few moments where I'm thinking, why can't Ezio climb this? It's right there, but the game just won't let you. Really doesn't matter, not a big deal at all, just something worth noting. Ultimately, Assassin's Creed 2 is still a joy. I obviously came into this somewhat biased, as I've always persisted that AC2 is the best game in the series. But the nostalgia was just off the charts here. I had an absolute blast revisiting this classic. It still holds up well enough for me. It's a bit rough here and there, but overall it has aged well enough to be worth your time in 2023. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope that you did enjoy it. If you did, then please make sure to leave a like, as I would greatly appreciate that. And if you want to subscribe to see more videos like this, then that's probably a pretty good idea. But for now, that's all from me. Have a nice day, and goodbye.
Who is Desmond? I don't understand. Please wait. I have so many questions.